Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Mukesh's Tech Space. We walk through easy ways to set up and use AWS Lightsail, Azure, and other web hosting tools and services primarily for setting up, development environments. But we could also use these services to set up production environments for yourself, your sites, or for clients you may be working with. So if you are interested in this type of content, please consider subscribing. So in the last video, we walked through setting up CapRover, a open source web host management tool, and we also set up a MySQL database as well as a couple of WordPress applications or WordPress instances, just to show you how their one-click repository works. In this video, I wanted to take that, continue on the CapRover setup, and show you how to use it that is outside of their one-click repository. So the first thing I wanted to show you is how to set up a static website. We've done static website setups with AWS. I have also shown how to do that with Azure's new service as well. And so to continue that part, I want to show you how to set up the static site on CapRover. The second part of the video, I also want to show you how to go to the Docker Hub repository and find other applications that you might need, or if you are interested in, and install those, and they're not part of the one-click repository. So I want to show you how to go find applications on the Docker Hub and how to deploy them using CapRover on your server instance. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so to get started and follow along this tutorial, you'll need to have your CapRover server set up. So if you don't have a CapRover server set up yet, then follow my last video. That will walk you through the steps necessary to set up a CapRover server on an AWS Lightsail instance. So follow that, and then you can follow along this video. In the first example, we'll be deploying a static website onto a CapRover app instance. For that, you'll need obviously a static website on your local computer. So what I'm going to do is set that up right now. I'm going to use the same HTML template that I've used in all of my videos where we've deployed static sites, whether on AWS or Azure, and that's the HTML5 up dimension template. So, and I'm going to just extract it on my local computer here. We'll call that my static website. And then within the static sites root folder, and this is the template we're using in our tutorial. If you already have a static website of your own, you'll follow along with that static site, but go into the root folder and we'll create two files. We're going to create a captain definition file that is used by CapRover to set up the app. And then we'll also use a DockerFile that indicates to CapRover which Docker images to pull down, install, and set up the entire site. So the first file, the captain definition file, captain dash definition, and we don't use an extension, so be sure to delete the extension. And then let's edit the file. I'm going to paste the JSON formatted instructions, and I'll have these in the description below or inside of a GitHub gist or something like that. So go ahead and save that file. And then the second file is the Docker file. Here we'll also paste this code. Really, that's it. Okay, and now we'll set up a Git repo within the static file directory. CapRover requires that you at least have a locally initialized Git for it to use the deploy command. So we'll open up a terminal window or a PowerShell window, go to our static site folder, and then run git init, git add, and git commit. Okay, and then once you have ran those 3 git commands to set up the locally Git repo, then you can now go ahead and run CapRover deploy. It's going to ask us which server we want to deploy to. And now it's going to ask us which app we want to deploy this to. So I have not set up the app yet. So I'm going to cancel out of this and go set up the app first. So create my static site. There we go. Now we've set up the app. Now let's run the command again. Go, and now we'll pick the my static site and master branch. Hit yes for that warning, and it's building our site and deploying it. So here we go, it's finished. We'll go ahead and test it out. Here's our site. Now if you want to make any changes to the site and update that on CapRover, the method that I like is connecting it to GitHub. So next we'll do is set up a GitHub repo and connect it to our local Git repo that we already have set up. So let's create a repo, static site, public repo. There we go. So let's now add this remote to our existing Git. Okay. Then git push so we can get the initial repo out on GitHub. So we should now see our static site up on GitHub. Next we'll go to our app on CapRover and set up our deployment, and you'll see right here, this is our method. One of the methods that CapRover provides is deploy from a GitHub, Bitbucket, or a GitLab source repository. So set this up. Branch. We'll use our GitHub username, our email address, and then the password here, you can just type in anything you want. It's really not going to be used. And then we'll hit save and update. I guess we have to type in master. There we go. Now what this is supposed to do is provide us a URL for the webhook. But there is a bug in CapRover where it doesn't generate the URL right off once you hit save and update. And I think this bug is already reported and might be already in their and there are plans to update in the next version of CapRover. But the way this does work is once you do hit save and update, then you just need to go back out into the apps section and then come back into your specific app, and then if you scroll down, you'll see that the URL is now available. So this webhook we want to copy, come back to GitHub, click on settings, and then webhooks. We'll add a new webhook, paste the URL. Content type has to be application/JSON, and then leave everything else the default. Nothing in the secret. Enable the SSL verification, and then we'll just use the push event and make it active. And now we've connected CapRover with GitHub using the webhooks. So now whenever we make any changes to the site and then commit them to GitHub, it's going to send a notification to CapRover, which will initiate the build and redeploy the site. So we'll test that out real quick. So on our website, let's open this up in an editor. And let's come inside here. And let's modify the couple of things. Let's modify the title. Say dimensions on CapRover, and then we'll just modify this H1 CapRover site. I'll hit save, and then add this to Git. And Git push. And again, git push origin master. So now once this command completes, we should see those changes on the web app. And our web app is right here, my static site, and you'll see here that it still says dimension. So this will say whatever I put down, I think CapRover or something. So let's go ahead and test that out. Perfect. We should also see on here that it's doing a build. There we go. So it got the notification, now finished up the build. So if we refresh our site again, and there it is, CapRover site. So in this way, if you've connected all this up, you can continue to modify your site locally, even test it locally, push it up to CapRover, and through the GitHub notification, webhook notifications, it can automatically deploy to your app. Now in this second example I wanted to show you was pulling down an image off of the Docker Hub platform and then using that to set up an app. So that's good if you if the one-click apps, if your app is not here available, and if you still wanted to deploy it, then this is the method that you would use. Now you'll see here, I don't see here an app that is popular. It's called Drupal. It's a content management framework, so I don't see that here, but what if I needed that for my development? Then this is the method that I would follow to deploy it to CapRover. So for this tutorial, let's head on over to the Docker Hub. So hub.docker.com, and click on Explore. This is the repository where a lot of Docker images are available. Almost every app that you can think of, it's probably on Docker Hub, so you can pick any image available on here to deploy to CapRover. As I said in the example, we'll use the Drupal content management framework as our application that we'll want to deploy today. But you can pick from any of these apps. So to find Drupal, I'm going to go to official images, so filter by official images and then application frameworks. And then scroll down and you'll see Drupal. So click on Drupal and then click on tags. So you can pull down any of these releases. We'll pull down the latest release. So to do this, we'll come back onto CapRover, set up our new a new app, my Drupal site has persistent data. Make sure that's selected. So that should be selected when your app needs any of the data that it stores or uses off of the disk. And examples of this would be sites or applications like Drupal or WordPress or Joomla, any of those applications that make use of content that is available on the file system. So you'll want to make sure that you select that. If you don't click that, then any data that's stored on the disk, let's say like you upload an item into the media folder of WordPress, then if your app restarts or if it's if you shut it down and start it back up, all of that data will be lost because it's not persistent. So make sure when you're setting up apps that use files off of the disk, you select has persistent data. So create a new app, then come to the app here, click on deployment, and in this one I'll show you a different deployment method, which is method number 5, deploy using a captain definition file. So instead of writing out a captain definition file on our file system on our computer, we're just going to directly type it into the system here. So we'll need the code, and this is the JSON formatted instructions, and then we'll say image name, and then here all you have to do is come back to the Docker Hub, and the tag is what needs to be put in there. So Drupal : latest, and that's what we will type right here. And then that's it, hit deploy. That'll take a minute or so for it to pull down the Docker image from the hub repo and build it and deploy it. Once it is deployed, let's see, build has finished successfully. So once it's deployed, now you can go into its Drupal specific setup process. So let's try that out. Drupal site. And there you go. This is now the setup process for Drupal. So if we save and continue, I guess for our purpose, we'll do a demo install. And here we'll use our existing MySQL database server or database instance that we have running. So database name, username, password, and then any advanced options. So here we'll do, instead of localhost, we'll have to type in our unique URL for the Docker location for our MySQL instance. So before we do this, let's go ahead and set up our database. So it's going to be log into your PHPMyAdmin. Let's create a database. Actually, let's do the other way around. I think this is better. Let's set up a user account. Drupal user. Give it a password. And then let's create a database with the same name and grant all privileges. There we go. Perfect. So here's our Drupal user. I shouldn't have probably used the Drupal user name because it creates a database with the same name, but this is just for demo purpose. So now let's come back to our Drupal setup. Drupal user, and then type our password that we used. And then here it's going to be this one right here, srv-captain -- then the MySQL instance name. So in my case, it's MySQL-db. And if we wanted a table prefix, we could assign that here. And then hit save and continue. And it's setting up Drupal, installing, I guess, the various modules that are needed for Drupal, and then it will set up the demo site. So in this method, we used a Docker image from the Docker Hub repository, and it could be from anywhere, or any Docker Hub repository. It doesn't have to be just the official images or certified Docker images. Anything that's available on Docker Hub, you can connect to and set up an app on your CapRover system. So I hope you found this video useful. We looked at two different ways to set up apps on your CapRover system. One was a static website. If you have that, you can use this method that I showed in this video. And the other one was to be able to pull an image off of the Docker Hub repository and install that, because that app wasn't available through the one click of CapRover. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, like it, share it with others, and consider subscribing to the channel so you can help reach my 1,000 subscriber mark. And until the next video, take care.